Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Wheels, the show that champions all riders from world champs to weekend warriors, where everyone has their story to tell. And today's story is coming from the lips of Fiona Mangan. She is an Irish track cyclist as well as road cyclist. She's been making her way in the world of team pursuit and individual pursuit, and we highlight the differences between the two disciplines, as well as kind of the differences that she's found from going from her initial sporting background in GAA, which you'll hear more about, into actual track cycling and the huge pressure that comes with such short, intense events. So sit back, listen, and most of all, enjoy. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Hi, Peter. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's always good to chat to someone who's, just someone within the world of cycling, to be honest. Like, that's kind of what excites me about doing these. And it's great to have someone like yourself. You recently went to Track World. I mean, I'm telling you as if you don't know, as if like, oh yeah, shit, I did. How was Track World? Because I mean, this is coming out a little while after, but at time of recording, it's quite recent.
Yeah, it was really good. It was my first track event ever. So it was all quite new to me. So sometimes when you're doing something for the first time, it's obviously really exciting because you're learning so much and you're meeting new people, and so I really enjoyed it. Track's so different to road, isn't it? It's just, it's funny because what I haven't been used to is, you might have 3-hour training sessions on the track and you're doing 30 minutes of actual cycling, because you might do a 10-minute intense session and then you sit back and you analyze, and especially because the events I'm doing are team pursuit and IP, individual pursuit. So I don't know if people listening don't know much about track. Team pursuit is sort of when you're in a 4-person relay and you take turns, and basically you're trying to go as fast as you can over 16 laps over 4K. And you can imagine it's quite kind of tactical. You need to use the riders in the correct way, and so that it really becomes your best performance really is based on how the team works together and the strategy around that. And I definitely think you're as good as your weakest rider. And so you really need to make sure that you're using people's strengths in the correct way. So Track Worlds was my first time being introduced to the racing part. I'd done a few camps with Team Ireland. And it was really fun. I was saying to the girls, I've never done a sport where it's literally just 4 minutes. That's the performance, because my background is in Gaelic football, and then obviously I went into cycling, and Gaelic football is an hour, or 35 minutes aside. And then, so you have a bit of time, if you make a mistake, you have a bit of time to make up for it. You have an hour to play, so you can kind of feel into the game sometimes. And if you make a mistake as a team, you can kind of be okay, we'll fix it, or things like that. And same as road racing, it's 3 hours, our races 4 hours, so just so much goes on in that time. Whereas this is literally 4 minutes, so you're doing all this prep for 4 minutes of racing, which I'm not used to. So I guess I wouldn't say there's more pressure, but it's a different sort of pressure. Everything has to be dialed, beforehand, during it. So it took me a while to get used to that. And it's funny because when I was at the start of the team pursuit, I think that's the most nerve-wracking. When you hear those beeps, I already have trauma from it. And it's whereas in road racing, it's you hear the whistle and then you have a bit of a neutral, so you have a bit of time to get into the race. Whereas with the team pursuit and the IP, it's just so precise, But I watched the Olympics this year, like the running Olympics. And when you see the runners and they're doing their like pre-race little ritual, and like they're on the line, the cameras are around them, and they're doing like just doing little prayers and different things. And I used to be like, oh, it's mad, why are they doing that? But now I can see why they do that. And I think with the track, I'm gonna have to like form my own way of like getting prepared, like, because you just need to be on it.
Yeah, it's mad. And as you're saying about like the mistakes situation, like, yeah, in GAA, like, I guess like if you concede a goal, like, okay, but you've got a chance to get that goal back and a chance to attack yourselves. And as you said, like, you can almost, like, you can't be on it for the whole 35 minutes. You kind of have to, I guess, if you have a poor 10, well, you've got another 10 coming up and another 10 after that, and then another 5 even left. Like, there's still time. In team pursuit, like, one mistake and, well, you might as well just stop. Like, because, and it's like, if you make a mistake, you almost have to bank it, I guess, and go, okay, we won't get that wrong next time. But it's like, next time's not much good when you're in the gold medal race or racing for bronze.
Like next time is in like 7-8 weeks time, which is the European Championships or the next World Cup. Like,
it's mad, isn't it? Like, and how did you find the difference between team pursuit and IP? Because it's weird. Like, I guess it's the difference between a team time trial and an individual time trial as well. Is like, a team time trial is more like a series of sprints. Whenever you're on the front, you're sprinting essentially, and then the rest of your time is trying to recover. I wouldn't say recovering, because that's like very active recovery. Whereas IP, it's just you. There's no, like, it's threshold without sprinting.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
That's a good way. Yeah, I think the TP, like, initially when we first started training, what I found quite, I wouldn't call it overwhelming, well, a little bit overwhelming, but there was a lot of things to think about. You have to think about your line, you have to think about how close you are to the front, the wheel in front of you. You have to think about the speed, like when you get to the front, managing the speed. Then you have to think about the splits, like when our coach is giving us the splits. So there's a lot of different things, whereas in IP, realistically in IP, you can just go as hard as you want if you want, because it's just you. Like, if you mess up, like, it's on you. Whereas with the team pursuit, I feel like it's a bit more pressure, because you're like more conscious of not messing up, being more aware of all the other things that are going around you, so that you don't, cause a mistake that causes a disaster for the team. So I found with the team pursuit, and even last week, like, one of the things we were maybe not used to was we've done all this training and then you arrive fresh to the race. And that's very different to when you're training, when everyone maybe is a little bit more fatigued. But when you're fresh, it's a whole other thing, because everyone all of a sudden some people, we're all just a lot stronger again. So the pace might go up and all these different things. So I just felt like, with the team pursuit, there's more things to be aware of. Whereas with the individual, I just felt like, okay, really the only thing is managing my splits and going as hard as I can, but it was nice to do after doing the team pursuit. Like, we were a little bit disappointed with our result, and I think there's a lot more in us, but again, it was our first time together as a group, so I think we can learn from it. But then, it was nice to do the IP, then to just get a big blowout like that end of season. I actually enjoyed it as much as it was a sufferfest, and it was fun as well. So
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions already spinning off from that. It's like, you said about the splits and watching that, like, how easy is it? Because I mean, famously, or maybe for people who don't know, coaches either have like an iPad nowadays, but certainly back in the sort of 90s and the early thousands, when tech wasn't quite as prevalent, like, you'd have a coach walking the line, as they say, which is like, they'd start at the finish line, and then if you're up on schedule, they'd walk like towards you, I guess, or a predetermined direction, and
Hmm.
if you were down on schedule, they'd walk the other way, and
Yeah.
each step would be at a like tenth of a second, I think. Um,
Okay.
how easy though is it to adjust when you're already at like 90% effort or whatever your threshold is, and then your coach shows your schedule and you're like, oh, actually I'm up or down, and like how, yeah, can you make that adjustment really easily, or is that quite hard to do when you're already like maxing out what you can do?
Yeah, it's like I'm really not a pro with track, as in, because like I said, it's really my first time, and I think anyone, you definitely would know a lot more than I would. I mean, but I think from it's in some ways it's easy. Like, definitely the first few laps for me are the hard. Like for the IP, I always go out too fast. Like I went out too fast, and that was because like that I don't know what a 16 pace feels like versus a 15 versus a 17. So it's only I do my first two laps and I'm like, okay, damn, I'm going too fast. So then I can kind of slow down, and then I find it easy to maintain that pace. Um, the last few laps, then it's just going as hard as you can. So I'm not really looking at the iPad at that point. But like, I think it's easy to slow down if you're going
Mm.
if you're going a little bit faster. But it's, yeah, I think when you're in the flow, it's easy to slow down or speed up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But at the very start, you don't really have the iPad to judge your first few laps. So like, that has to be based on feel, and that's the part that I think I have to work on, and maybe as a team pursuit as well, squad, that we have to work on too, because that's really based on feel. And then obviously from track to track, track feels different, like different tracks feel different, so I think that's going to come with experience.
Mm.
um yeah.
Yeah, because like that team pursuit squad looks like it's got a ton of potential as well. Because is Lara in the team? I forget actually who's in the team.
No, Lara, not for now. She was doing the individual
Hmm.
events, yeah, this year, yeah,
But
for the
it's yourself, notable sprinter who has won a bunch sprint in her career, Emma Jeffers, who has also won multiple sprints in her career,
yeah.
um, Erin Creighton, I want to say,
Mhm.
and then I
Yeah.
can't remember your fourth, which is really bad of me.
We have Aoife and Quiva, so the O'Brien sisters, yeah.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
But like that team has got so much potential, it looks like, and
Yeah.
I totally understood when you said like that there was more in you. I was like,
Yeah.
you could be a team like challenging for medals. I feel like I'm not like trying to blow smoke up anywhere. Like it definitely comes across that that team's really got something going. How, I guess, yeah, potentially a loaded question, but like how long term is track for you?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for now, like I've always taken my cycling career like year by year.
Hmm.
So yeah, next year I'm definitely committed, and with my road team Winspace as well. And after that, I'll see. But I think for now, I just take things year by year, because cycling kind of is an unpredictable sport too. So I've never been like, I work towards goals, but I don't say, okay, in 4 years' time, this is where I'm going to be. Like, I kind of just like taking it, yeah, year by year.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's possibly quite a healthy way to be.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, therefore, that like World Cups are on the agenda for this year. I don't even
Uh,
know which World Cups there are because like there was very few this year.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there's one in Malaysia, and then there's the
Okay.
Europeans. Europeans, I think, are in Turkey, and then there's a World Cup in Malaysia, and then another World Cup somewhere in Asia, and then there's China, I think, is where the Worlds are at the end of the year. Um, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be definitely, um, yeah, definitely a lot of globe trotting in the future.
Yeah, yeah,
How,
it'll be balancing. Yeah, it'll be different to balance it with the road for sure.
yeah, how did you find like going to Santiago for the Worlds? Because like, yeah, it's the first time South America's hosted the Worlds. It's kind of certainly for a sport that is majority European based, it's certainly out of the way. But then
Mm.
that in itself, I think, brings interesting dynamics to it, because then you've got people having to cope with jet lag versus, more local riders who, could just nip down in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Santiago was really cool. I'd never been to to Chile. I haven't really been to South America really ever, and I found Chilean people so nice. Like really, like we were cycling to the track, and we would have like our Irish gear on, and the amount of people that were like Irlanda, like it was just so nice. I felt like yeah, they really, um, I thought they really hosted a good like world. I think the jet lag, I think it took us like 2-3 days, but there was only a 4 hour time difference between like Spain where we came from and or sorry, Portugal where we came from and Santiago. So I think after 2-3 days, and when you travel west, I think it's a lot easier to kind of get over jet lag versus
Mm.
like now I've been back a week and I still find I'm still adjusting. Like, so I think we were lucky that it was that way that we were like flying to. But yeah, no, I thought it was really good and a nice way of visiting a new city. And our hotel was like in the city, so you could kind of get an idea of um yeah, the surrounding. And that's the difference I find with track versus road is like, with track there's a lot of time in between sessions and you sort of get there earlier, obviously because of the jet lag, and you might want to do some training sessions and things. So we actually got to visit a bit of Santiago versus with the road, you're in and you're out all day racing, you're traveling to the next hotel. Like you're never
Mm.
really staying in a hotel for more than a night or 2 nights on the road for stage races and things like that. Versus here for track, like you're in the same place for a week. So I really like that aspect actually.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually. And I feel, yeah, we've spoken quite a lot about worlds, and I'd actually like to understand more about your journey into cycling. It's something I like asking people. And obviously, you have mentioned that you played Gaelic football, so I've called it GAA earlier. I believe that's the acronym. I hope it is, and I'm not like messed up there.
No, it's right.
Um, yeah, obviously that's a massive sport in Ireland. So how did
Yeah.
you go from doing that to then being on the boards in Chile and riding road bikes for Windspace?
Yeah. So in Ireland, like our two national sports are Gaelic football and hurling. Now they both come under the GA
Hmm.
basically is both those sports. But um, it's funny. It's like really dependent on what village you're from, like what sport you're going to play. Like
Oh.
around where I live, there wasn't much hurling for feet for girls, but there was for boys. But like my primary school, we did football, and I ended up then joining like a local club. And I did that until I was like 18. And then I went to college in Galway, which is an hour and a half from Limerick, where I'm from. And in college, I didn't really do much sport. I just, yeah, enjoyed college. And I think it was in third year I went over to America on like kind of like an exchange Erasmus program. And there, like, I joined. I don't know how I ended up in the triathlon club, but I joined the triathlon club. I think it was because they organized like weekends away in different parts of America where you could go into the mountains, and they would do like a little training camp there. And I think it was like a nice way of like meeting people. And obviously, we weren't going home to our parents every weekend because we were in America. So it was a nice way of like, yeah, spending time with people. So that was kind of the first time I ever started cycling. And then I came back, finished my degree, and then I started working. And I kind of dabbled a triathlon a little bit during my first few years of work. And then COVID hit in 2020. And at the time, I had like a running injury, and also pools were closed. So I kind of decided to just focus a bit more on the bike to then, with the thought of eventually, once pools opened again and my running injury was okay again, I would get back to triathlon. But yeah, I think I just spent that summer doing like a lot of like cyclocross, kind of just around, the way there was like the 2K rule. Yeah, I ended up buying a cyclocross bike and just literally just cycling around the fields around my house. Um, and then very entertaining. And then some Zwift as well. And I think the main thing about COVID was that I started remote working, which I think has been a huge like reason for why I've started cycling, because I didn't have to commute. So I used to have like a 45-minute commute to an hour depending on traffic. And like all of a sudden I had 2 hours free a day where I wasn't commuting. So that really gave me time to like train. And then I joined like a local club called Greenmount. And they basically took me under their wing and taught me how to race. And like I'd still been thinking like I'm gonna go back to triathlon, but like Alan and Vinny, the two main coaches, were like, would you just try a few cycling races? I'd be like, I don't know. They're
That's
like,
how
go
they
on.
get you.
Yeah, they do. They're like, don't mind that triathlon. And yeah, I started doing a lot of the men's local races because, yeah, I don't know, during COVID, the cycling was still like you were still able to go outside and cycle, like even in a group and stuff. So it was kind of a good social thing too. And then I did my first like women's race, which was the national championships in Limerick actually. So yeah, and that kind of that's when I really started to enjoy cycling, and like especially with the club, because we'd go out every weekend, and they taught me really how the etiquettes of cycling, you know, as in like how to ride a bike and like all these different things. And they were really this club was like really focused on like you need to learn how to ride your bike before you even worry about like fitness and about things like that. Like they were so focused on yeah, they would just, I don't know, they would always like pinpoint different things I was doing wrong and stuff. So I felt like I was really well taken care of like with them. And then in January 2021, my boyfriend and I decided to like remote work for 2 weeks in Spain, like all the, I think a lot of our generation kind of decided to do, and came to Girona. I didn't realize Girona was such a cycling like hub at the time. But yeah, we ended up staying then for like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So 2 weeks turned into quite a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then when I was in Girona, I joined like my club at home were still like coaching me, and they were like, you need to go race and you need to go race. And so I joined like a Spanish club team here called the Costa Brava Mediterranean Foods, which is a ham company. And so they brought me, actually my very first race with them was the Vuelta CV, which is like a 1.1 race. So I was thrown into the deep end. And yeah, I kind of took off from there then. So
That's kind of crazy because, like, yeah, your first big track event is the Worlds. Your first women's races,
yeah,
the Nationals, and then your first like Spanish race is just a casual 2.1. You know,
yeah,
the only way that could be harder is like I don't know if they have 2 point pros in women's. I forget, but like, yeah, it could have been World Tour. I guess that's the only
yeah,
way it could have.
yeah,
But
even
like,
harder.
yeah, the World Tour CV is like, yeah, that's a big old race, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. So how did you go from the club team to then ending up? I presume you're professional, like
Yeah.
with
Um,
Windspace.
yeah. So I think I was with that club team for a few months, and then that summer, my boyfriend said to me, he was like, "You need to go to Belgium and do kermesses, because that's where the real
Hmm.
hardy racing is." Um, and so I went in August to a few weeks to do some kermesses, which I absolutely loved. I love kermesses; they're so fun. And there was actually a team called IBCT at the time, who were like a mix between Irish and Belgian riders. So I think it was a Belgium team, but they had an Irish license.
Mm.
So I kind of had some connections on that team, and yeah, I introduced myself to them. And Ken, the director at the time, kind of just kept an eye on me. And then a few weeks after I came back from Belgium, he rang me and said, "Do you want to join the continental team next year?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love that." So that's how I kind of got my first continental, I guess, contract. So the following year, I moved to Belgium. I drove from Spain to Belgium, and I lived in Ghent for like 8 months to base myself there. And actually, all throughout all this time, I was still working with my company. And it was actually funny because I work like in biomedical engineering, and we had some like hospital sites in Belgium. So I could, yeah, it was kind of a nice coincidence. So yeah, so then I joined IBCT, and then that was a tough year because I think I was really, really thrown into the deep end there, being in the Belgium racing, and I got really sick at the start of the year. Like for 2-3 months, I had like long COVID. So I feel like I only started my season in like April, May, and then I broke my collarbone in June. So yeah, it's just a tough season. And at the end of that year, then IBCT actually folded, and I had no contract for the following year until a Spanish team called Saltec. Um, I they were, I think they'd already started a year or two,
Mm.
but yeah, I contacted them and I moved back to Girona, and so I joined them in 2023. And then halfway through the year with Saltec, I actually got in touch with Sinisca, because the thing with Saltec is, so we did the Vuelta, and that was a really great experience. But halfway through the year, they kind of told us, "Oh, I don't think we're going to have any more races." Um, so I kind of obviously wanted to keep racing, and so I got in touch with Sinisca, and I was kind of back and forth with them for ages, and then eventually they took me on kind of as a stagiaire for the second part of 2023. And that, I guess, was my first professional contract, like paid contract. And then I stayed with them in 2024, and then yeah, WinSpace in 2025. So that's kind of how it
Wow.
went. Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like all the different teams, and like IBCT are certainly a name I remember. I've forgotten that
yeah,
they'd folded. I don't know what I expected happened to them, if I'm honest. But I remember they had Luis Adakist, who
yeah.
was former
She was my team.
E
Yeah,
world champion and is now at
hmm
FTJ Suez.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like she's a huge engine of a rider. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of pedigree to be on that team. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, and it's just like crazy, like that journey of all the different teams, as I said, like yeah, going from Belgium to I guess they were Belgian or Dutch
Spain.
team, and then Spain,
Yeah,
and then an American registered team, and
yeah.
now is WinSpace
French,
Irish? Oh, it's French. Okay,
French.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So WinSpace, maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm calling it WinSpace. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But yeah, like how's this season been? Because it's not been. I think there's been highs and lows.
yeah.
Looking both at result sheet and just in general about like what's happened this year. It started with what I gather is quite a bad crash at Newsblad. So what? Well, Omloop. Who? Why can't I speak today?
Omloop, get used to it.
Yeah, at
It's a
the
hard one.
Omloop.
I still can't pronounce half the Belgian races.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite races as well because it
Yeah,
still goes up the Moor van Gersbergen. That iconic Moor Kapelmoor climb, like it's beautiful.
yeah.
I'm gutted it's not in the Tour of Flanders, but yeah, how like what happened? How I guess how did it happen? If you're comfortable reliving that.
Yeah, yeah, I was so I was really like, it was my first time ever doing like a classics, I guess,
Mm,
season, because that was really why the highlights of joining this team. And yeah, Newsblad obviously is the opening one, and um it was kind of, I think it happened, yeah, there was like 30K to go, and basically like, it's hard to know exactly what happened because it's all a bit of a blur. But I think what happened is, like, I was cycling and then there was a lot of cobbles, and I have a feeling my saddle could have loosened. Um, but it's really hard to know exactly what happened. But I was basically coming out of a turn and I lost control of the bike, and basically I instead of like going into the girls in front of me, I decided, okay, I'm going to go into the bush to sort of, you know, like, how would you say it, like stall, because I thought
mm.
it was like a field, and I thought if I, instead of like going into the bunch, if I went into the field, at least I would like slow down a bit and then get back in some way. At least that's what my memory of it was. And then what happened is my front wheel got stuck. You know those like gutters on the side of the road?
Yeah.
didn't expect that to come, and my front wheel like got hit that, and I went over the handlebars, and yeah, I fell down, and I got up, and I just saw my seat was completely off my bike, and I was like, I actually felt fine, and I was like about to like lift up my hand, to just be
Mm.
like car, and then I was like, oh, can't lift up my hand. And that's when I realized I think my collarbone is broken.
Oh yeah,
uh,
that's just
yeah. And then I got taken by the ambulance, went into hospital, and I kind of knew, I could feel the collarbone was a bit off, and my hand was like a little bit like sore, but I didn't think anything of it. And then we got into hospital. I did some scans, and my fourth metacarpal was totally shattered, and yeah, my
oh.
collarbone was also broken. And I actually flew back to Spain. I got surgery done here. So I got a screw in my hand and then a plate in my collarbone. So yeah, that was a pretty traumatic, traumatic
See,
crash. But
like,
yeah,
yeah, like the collarbone is just sort of quote unquote traditional cyclist injury. Like
yeah,
everyone's, and like even to the point that commentators can recognize when it's happened.
yeah,
Like that's how common that happens.
yeah,
But the metacarpal one, like that, those are the tiny bones in your hand, aren't they? Like after your
yeah,
knuckles or
yeah,
before your knuckles, I guess, depending on which
yeah.
where you're starting. But like that just to break one of them does not sound comfortable or
No, but
nice.
like it's funny because I was not in any pain at all. I think like after speaking to a few people, like it is definitely the adrenaline. Like the
Mm,
most pain I had was right after the surgery when I woke up, and you're still under like anesthetic a bit, as in your everything
mm.
feels a bit numb, and then like they've obviously opened you up and stuff, so you're just like that's when the pain hit. But like all really the few days before that I wasn't painful, and I do consider myself really lucky because with bones, like when you break a bone you can predict the timeline of the healing. And once I met the surgeon, I sat down with my surgeon here, and he was just so straightforward, like this is what we're going to do, this is what the timeline is like. And my biggest like at the time, my biggest goal was to do Paris-Roubaix. I'd never done
Mm.
Paris-Roubaix, and I just sat down with the surgeon and I was like, what's the fastest way we can get me to the start line of Paris-Roubaix? Because yeah, it was always a dream race of mine, and you don't know when you're going to get that chance again. Um, and even if you think, oh, I'm going to be in cycling for years, or I'll get a contract next year, you still never know what's going to happen. And I was like, Paris-Roubaix is in 6-7 weeks. I was like, I want to do Paris-Roubaix. And he was like, okay, we'll get you there. And so in that way, I find myself quite lucky because I could see, what the healing would look like, work with my surgeon, and yeah, and it worked. So yeah.
And to me, that's slightly. I don't want to say unhinged. That seems unfair, but like slightly crazy that you're like, oh shit, like my collarbone's broke. How can I get back to racing like one of the world's renowned tough races where the cobbles are
Yeah.
kind of. I don't think the cobbles were laid properly. I feel that's the wrong verb. They were just strewn across a field, and
Yeah.
they went voila, ici on road. I don't know the word anymore. I wish I knew more French than I do, but yeah, like here you go. There's a road. We just stuck some cobbles. Might as well be
Yeah.
gravestones. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
haphazardly. And your first reaction is, yeah, I want to race that this year after
Yeah.
after surgery. Like,
Yeah.
what was it like to be though on that start line?
The thing is, the collarbone was actually okay. It was the
Huh?
hand. A lot of people like
Oh,
that was the problem with the cobbles and in the vibrations of it. So like actually in Girona here, there's like one little street with tiny cobbles. Like I wouldn't even call them cobbles. And I like went down on a training ride maybe 2 weeks before Paris-Roubaix, and I went over those, and I was like, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, this is fine. And I have a very good friend of mine who's a world tour cyclist, and I was like, I think I want to do, like, she's done Paris Roubaix, and she was like, we do Paris-Roubaix. The reasons at the end of the classics is because if you crash, which you're most likely going to crash, you have a bit of time to recover. So I was like, damn, girls are going into that race expecting, to crash. And they're like, I don't care anyways, because it's at the end of, whereas I was like, if I crash, like I'm fecked. So yeah, to be at the start line for me was already like a win. And to be honest, like actually what's more chaotic in Paris-Roubaix is not necessarily the cobbles. It's like the 60K before the cobbles to position into that first sector. So to be honest, like after 20K of that, I was like, I'd already checked out, to be honest. And I was like, look, I'm just really happy to be here. I'm going to find a nice gruppetto. and my team were really understanding for that too. Like they knew it was a goal of mine. For them, it was also an achievement for this team to be at Paris-Roubaix. So I was really lucky that that's the environment that, I was under. Like I wasn't under a team who were like, you have to do this role or you have to get to the finish in a certain group. It was really like, enjoy the experience. We obviously understand you came back from injury. So yeah, I actually feel quite lucky because I got to enjoy the race. Like in the end, I think I was very much on my own in the back and everyone's like cheering, you can wave at everyone. You don't really care too much about obviously your results. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad I did it because I think with a Paris-Roubaix, it's a race you want to do maybe a few times or really experience it like before you maybe go into it one day being like, actually, I want to get a result in it. So I have no regrets. In hindsight, it probably was a bit too soon to try and get back onto the cobbles, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, like, without wanting to sound too millennial, like, you only live once, and that's, like, at the most. So you might as well enjoy and take those kind of small victories, whatever they look like. And if that looks like putting your body through hell at Hell of the North and riding over, like, the Carrefour de l'Arbre and other ridiculous cobblestone sectors, then sure. Did you actually make it to the velodrome? Like, what was it like to ride on? Because like everyone sees it every year during the race, and it's always seen as the sort of the end goal if you can make it there. Even quite famously as well, like people will get there even if they're way past the time cut. They'll still just make sure they get there because it's just an icon of the sport.
Yeah, no, it was like quite special to get there, and also like to see my teammates who had done really well, and to see them on the ground, just exhausted, and be able to like hug them and like just say that you're proud of them, and like there was so many crowds, and it was cool to be able to enjoy like that moment. And I think Paris-Roubaix is such a long race and there's so many different parts of it that you definitely go through different thought processes during it and different emotions. Like it's, I think I finished and I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then a few days later, I was like, might do it again.
I know people who do like ridiculous things like the Tracker 360, which is like 360-kilometer gravel race, and that's in Spain, I think. So it's like they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm never doing that again, and then like the next year sign up opens and like, yep, doing that again.
Like... I know. I think it's just endurance athletes. They're just a bit crazy.
You're a different breed, and life would be boring if everyone was the same. So it's good that there's people who are like that. And yeah, you went from one iconic French race to doing another as well in your career, where you've done the Tour de France Femmes. Like, how big is that as a race? Because obviously you said you did it the Vuelta, and that's an iconic Spanish race, and it's got a huge tradition, more than I would say. Certainly in the women's peloton, there's more of a tradition of the Vuelta and the Giro. Like the Tour de France is new, like, but I feel like because of its name and because of what it, the organization, it feels huge. Like, what is it like to do that race?
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest race like I've ever done, and the race with the most amount of like media attention and support. It was very special, I think, for us because so we were three Irish girls to do the Tour de France this year, and it was the first time there was ever any Irish women in the race. So I think there was that added piece to it that just made it really, really, really special. And I was like, my family came out to see me for the whole week. So like at every stage finish, they were there, and like loads of my friends came out on the sides, and it was funny. Like every single stage, I had someone, either a friend or a relative, who lived near the area, so they would come out and support. And yeah, I felt like that was the most connected. When I say that, I mean like the race where I had a lot of like my family and friends involved in it, and like they're involved in the experience too. Whereas sometimes you could be racing, in the middle of nowhere in Spain, and no one really knows what's going on, or you might not see many of your family or friends there. But this was different, and it was really cool, like to see the amount of attention that we were getting. And yeah, I think the girls, we all put on a good show. So yeah, I think it was a good show for the spectators as well. But yeah, it is and it's also quite special for my team because we are a French team. So obviously to be a French team in the Tour, yeah, that comes with extra motivation, I would say.
Mm. Did you feel any like extra pressure though? Like, I know you said you felt more motivated because it's a French team. Is there
Mm.
also not like pressure that comes with that, or does that just spur you on more as well?
I think it stirred me on a bit more. Like, again, as we were a smaller team, it wasn't so much about going for the general classification. It was more about like taking each day as it comes and seeing, what we can do from a day-to-day basis. And like that, I love stage races because like the Tour was obviously 9 days, 10, yeah, 9 days. So I feel like I'm like, okay, there's lots of different days for lots of different kinds of opportunities. And again, I like having that time where, okay, if the first day doesn't go right, okay, there's always a second day, and then there's always a third day. So I think as a team, we just really took it day by day, which made it less, there was less like, yeah, I think there was less pressure that way, because it's like, okay, what can we do with what we have, like what resources we have, what kind of riders we have. um so they kind of broke it down in a way that didn't make it too like, yeah, I didn't feel a huge amount of pressure going into the Tour. um I was nervous, but I wasn't, yeah, didn't feel any like performance pressure as such.
Yeah, and then I can't remember now whether it was before or afterwards, but you went to Portugal and you got that stage win on stage three.
Yeah.
Um, what was that like? Because I know in the caption you mentioned about how like you weren't sure that you'd win a sprint, particularly after Omloop and crashing, and like, yeah, how did it feel to get a victory?
Yeah, so Portugal, yeah, it was before the Tour. And I guess with that race, there was more pressure because I know we actually could perform in that race and
Mm,
could win. So I think, like what I was saying earlier, but the Tour, the level's just so high, it's a different sort of,
yeah.
it's different pressure. Whereas Portugal, I knew after our first stage, I was like, I think our team can win a stage because we felt strong, we were riding well as a team. Um, and I think, yeah, it was the first few days we were working for Marie, who's like our kind of our flatland sprinter. And then the stage what that I won, we didn't necessarily have like a specific plan on who would be the leader, but me and Kiara, I knew, we I knew we'd be some bit in the finish. And I think like, yeah, when I opened up my sprint a lot earlier than I usually would. And that's, yeah, and that when I passed the line, I just, to be honest, I couldn't believe it. Like, yeah, I'm like, I don't, in the video, I like scream when I cross the line because I'm like, what the fuck? But yeah, I think it's always really special when you get your first like international win. There's obviously a sense of relief. There's also just like, I guess I haven't had like podiums or anything. Like it's not been this like build up to a win. It really just came like all of a sudden. I've had a good few top tens, especially last year, in those kind of races where there's a few hills and then a sort of hard kind of sprint at the end, or like a longer sprint, I think. So yeah, it was such a nice feeling when I crossed the line, and also to do it like with the team that was there. Like we had just been so motivated all week, and yeah, we were all really happy.
Oh, that's awesome. And now I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball then. Is like, if you could win just one more race in your career, you can pick like any race, but that's the only one you're ever going to win. What would you
Yeah.
pick?
It's a good question. Like, I think a stage win at a Grand Tour would be, would be really, really special. So obviously the Tour de France being the biggest, like, Grand Tour, but if it was the Vuelta or Giro, that would also be amazing. But yeah, if I could pick one thing to win, would be a stage win at a Grand Tour.
Wow. That's quite interesting. 'Cause, like, some people pick like Flanders. I think Pfeiffer, Georgie, I think she either said Flanders or Paris-Roubaix. I can't remember which. But like, tough women races, and, which is, befitting of her. I think, the Grand Tour stage win is a nice dream. I really hope you get this now. And it will look like this is exceptional foresight from us. But yeah, like that would be really cool to see, actually. Yeah. So what does next year hold in store for you? What are the plans? I say next year. This will be coming out next year. So also technically what's what's looking ahead for this year, by which I mean 2026.
Yeah, so I think like the race program with Windspace would be quite similar, I would say. We may potentially get the Vuelta as well, so looking at that, doing that race. But yeah, there will also be the track, like we discussed earlier. Like I'll be doing more of the Team Pursuit and IP. But I think what I would really like next year is that I actually go into the classic season and actually get to do more than just one or two races, not be injured getting into the classic season. Or not crash in the first race. So yeah, I really want to do like Gent Wevelgem, and maybe we'll get into Tour of Flanders. And I did Amstel this year, quite like that race, but I wasn't fit for it, I would say. So I would love to be able to do Amstel actually on form. And then hopefully the Tour again. That would be a major goal. And then the World Championships on the road are in Montreal, so we might potentially have an Irish team for that too, and that would be really, really cool because I've never raced in Canada. So yeah.
Now I can imagine the course is quite easy for them to come up with if they just pick the GP course that they use. Like, that's that job done. What next? I can't wait to see all that. And I really hope that you have a solid and successful classics campaign where you get to have those experiences. Gent Wevelgem, obviously Gent being a former hometown of yours, will be kind of crazy. There's so much excitement. How can people follow and keep up with you in the metaphorical sense, not the literal like walk behind you or try and keep up on a bike, because that would be borderline impossible with your talent. But yeah, how can people keep up to date with you on social media and stuff?
Yeah, just Fiona Mangan on social media. I think it's F_Mangan on Instagram. And I have a Strava account as well. And that's kind of, I don't post too often on it, but enough to, I think, kind of know where I am and stuff. So
Awesome. Well, we'll put those in the show notes, and they will be up on screen right now.
Perfect.
Obviously not
Thank
for
you
us,
so
but
much.
for people watching at home. And all that's left for me to say is thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, there you go. That was the very lovely Fiona Mangan. We had such a great chat, both during actually the recording and just generally, just in the setup. It was really nice. Really excited and glad that you listened. Thank you for making it this far. Tell a friend. Who knows where this story might lead. But until next time, we'll see you around.